The pen touches paper and the smirk arrives, small and sharp, like a blade masked as a smile. Laughter, soft, confident, almost rehearsed, ripples between polished nails and expensive perfume. He sits in a plain suit, the kind that invites the room to misread him. Eyes slide over him as if he were the extra in a story about his own life. Then a thick binder lands on the bench, its spine popping like a quiet thunderclap. Inside, numbers, dates, quiet decisions, truth with a paper trail. The air tightens. What happens when a single turn of a page flips power, unmasks bias, and makes the whole room hold its breath? Marcus carries himself like a man who learned early to do the work no one praises and to survive rooms that clap for the wrong things. Mornings begin before the sunrise, light spilling over spreadsheets and ledgers while coffee cools and resolve warms. He builds a logistics software company people don't notice until it breaks, because reliability is invisible. When checks clear, he buys the buildings others pass by, fixes roofs no one photographs, and sets rents at prices that keep families steady. He wears modest suits that say nothing and mean everything. He drives a car he can park anywhere. He sits on grants that arrive without fanfare. His name rarely appears on the donations he writes, because he prefers results over recognition. He is, by design, hard to read, especially for people trained to mistake quiet for lack. The marriage started with tenderness and plans, with rings that felt like promises and futures that seemed certain. It ended with a discovery that burned and a laughter that cut deeper than shouting ever could. Along the way, whispers formed around him. Maybe he overreached, maybe he was lucky, maybe he had nothing at all. The world, predictable as a clock, treated him like background when he didn't demand the foreground. But his forethought lived in the details. Separate accounts, careful filings, a prenup drafted on a hopeful afternoon that aged into a lifeline. Now he sits 2 rows from the bench in a courtroom that hums with judgment, the smooth edges of bias disguised as civility, the security gaze lingering a beat longer than it should. The judge lifts the binder. The next minutes will decide which story survives. We're on a mission to reach 1,000 subscribers, and we can't do it without you. If the story resonates, please subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments, and stay to the end for the final twist. Now let's get back to the story. Courthouse mornings carry a particular chill, the kind that settles under the skin. Fluorescent lights buzz. Shoes click. People practice neutral faces like armor. Marcus moves through security with the patience of experience and the muscle memory of being second-guessed. A clerk waves him to the wrong line. Client, not principal. And a bailiff's gaze lingers, as if presence requires apology. None of it surprises him. All of it accumulates. Opposing counsel chooses confidence as costume, tailored suit, deliberate tone, gestures that land like exclamation points. At their table, the laughter returns in quick bursts, crisp and dismissive, as if happiness can be crafted from certainty alone. The gallery tilts that direction too, aware of where power usually settles. The unspoken story writes itself. A cheating spouse claiming the spoils, a black man in a simple suit arriving to lose with grace. It is a prejudice that slides neatly into the spaces people don't admit to. Marcus's attorney taps a measured rhythm that says patience is strategy. Together they've built a fortress of facts nobody sees coming. Entities formed before the vows, assets held in trusts that predate anniversaries, distributions that never cross the line into community property. Paperwork is boring until it saves you. A forensic accountant translated years into numbers, numbers into proof. The judge arrives and protocol sweeps across the room like a tide. Introductions, exhibits, requests packaged as inevitabilities. Opposing counsel lays out demands with the casual ease of someone who believes the answer is already yes. Business equity, spousal support, slices of properties that photographs on social media have already claimed in the court of opinion. The laugh returns, softer now, but still there, like a drumbeat under the floorboards. Then the binder takes the stage. It does not glitter. It does not threaten. It simply waits, full of truth that does not require adjectives. The judge opens it and the room tilts toward the pages, breaths hitching in a rhythm that betrays curiosity, hunger, doubt. Marcus sits still, shoulders even, face composed. He has spent a lifetime managing rooms like this, rooms that check his credentials and his composure before they consider his character. Pages turn. Tabs divide years from years, assets from liabilities, myth from reality. The judge's eyes move, pause, return to particular lines. The silence gathers weight. It is the kind of silence that announces the pivot before it arrives. Even the clock seems to tick more loudly, as if time wants credit for what it is about to reveal. Somewhere in the back row, a phone camera rises and then lowers, unsure if this moment will matter. It will. The next page holds the thing that shifts the center of gravity. The judge reads and the room changes shape. The report verifies an 8-figure net worth and maps the architecture of foresight. Holding companies drawn years before rings, trusts established when love was abundant and wisdom insisted on boundaries, accounts that never commingled even when holidays did. There is no flash in this fortune, only patience and a refusal to let assumptions manage reality. The laughter stops mid-breath, stranded between confidence and consequence. Polite smirks curdle into confusion. Eyes that skimmed over Marcus return to him with a sudden sharpness, the kind of late-arriving respect that tastes more like appetite than fairness. The gallery leans in, caught in the spectacle of being wrong about a man they never bothered to see. The judge continues. The prenup stands, signed with counsel, notarized, and never violated by him. The infidelity clause triggers. The timeline of assets refuses to bend to wishful interpretation. Requests for spousal support collapse under the weight of facts. Community property is trimmed to what it actually is, not what rumor tried to inflate. The sound of a single page being turned carries like thunder. Pens freeze over legal pads. Even the HVAC hum recedes. Marcus remains still, not from shock, but because movement feels unnecessary when truth is finally speaking in a language the room respects. Dates, signatures, ledger lines. He does not gloat. He does not glance for validation. He simply holds the moment the way he has held every moment that tried to shrink him without apology. Her smile drops in stages, disbelief hardening into something brittle. Papers that once felt like props now feel like evidence. The courtroom imagines a twist it can post later, something neat and moral like karma. But this is not a parable about a windfall. It is a revelation about perception, the way bias edits a narrative, the way wealth becomes the only credential some people trust. The judge sets the binder down. The sound lands like a verdict even before the words do. The outcome moves from speculation to arithmetic. And still, the room is learning the slowest lesson of all. A number finally made them listen. The hallway hum returns, but it is not the same sound. Polite nods materialize from faces that offered none earlier. Compliments gather at his feet like crumbs after a meal. Marcus receives them with the distance they deserve. A decimal point did not change him. It changed the way strangers sorted him. That is not respect. It is gravity pulling toward a glint. He drives home in the same sedan, through streets that judge no one, past storefronts he has quietly funded, toward a door that opens to quiet. Relief arrives, not because he kept his money, but because his preparation held under pressure, and because truth, for once, did not need to shout. He thinks about the rooms where he learned to become smaller to stay safe, about the mental math required to exist as both visible and doubted, about the 1,000 cuts of assumptions he never bled for in public. There is no victory lap. There is work. He calls the legal aid nonprofit that helps families navigate systems where bias is the unlisted party. He increases the scholarship fund that moves first-generation students into fields where doors still stick. He routes a portion of holdings into a foundation without his name on it, because the work is the point, not the credit. He also sits with the harsher truth. The room did not shift until the number did. That stings in a place he never shows. He wants a world where a black man's worth is not proven by a ledger, where dignity does not need a witness, where fairness is not a twist ending. Night gathers at the window. Streetlights blink awake like cautious eyes. Somewhere, someone is turning this day into a neat story about instant karma. He understands why. Neat stories feel safe. But change rarely arrives neatly. It arrives through persistence, through policies, through people who refuse to accept the easy ending. How many more rooms will wait for a fortune to recognize a man's humanity? And how many of us will keep showing up until they don't?